Welcome. Today, we will discuss installing Gondola Studio and using it to write and run a test. First, open up VS Code and go to the Extensions tab. Next, click the menu icon and select Install from VS-IX. Select the Gondola Studio VS-IX file and then click Install. Next, we'll register our license. Click the Gondola Studio icon in the bottom left-hand corner. Now click the License Key button. For the machine field, enter LGVN14254, and for port, you'll enter 13501. These might depend on your Gondola license and setup. Press OK. Now you're registered. You can see the license information here. Okay, now we'll create a project. Open up Gondola Studio if you haven't already and click the Create Project icon. Select the folder that will contain your project. We have several templates. We're going to use the Android ABT sample today. We also have a behavior-driven development template and a web protractor template and a blank Appium template. For the project name, type Gondola Example, all one word. Hit enter. Your project is now being generated. You'll see the files appear in the Explorer. When it's finished, we'll right-click on the login validation.ts file. It's under the source/test folder. And then we'll click on Open with ABT Editor. Now let's clear the terminal. Type clear and hit enter. So we can see our test case in different commands such as login John and check control exists welcome. This will log in a user John and check that we arrive at the welcome screen. Now let's compile the test. Type npm run compile in the terminal and hit enter. We can see in our built folder the compiled JavaScript files are there. Okay, now let's run the test. Make sure you have Appium and properly configured. You should have your Android SDK and Java JDK folders listed there. These will depend on your operating system and system setup. You need to change them. You'll have to save and restart Appium. Now click Start Server. Also make sure you open up your Android emulator or connect your device. I'm just using the default emulator that comes with Android Studio. You'll need to allow USB debugging. Hit OK. Now we'll run our test. Type npm run test and hit enter. Okay, the test will start on our emulator. The car rental app is opened. We see the login screen. We'll type John. We'll click login and we'll see the welcome screen. So we can see our test is passed. Now, if you can see the elements here, we've got Gondola enter username, Gondola enter password. We don't have any of that in our test case. So that's all in the page object. Page object is a separate file that can be used by many test cases and will describe the methods for interacting with the page. Now let's look at the report. Type npm run show dash report. Here we have Allure, one of the test reporters. We have valid login, the test case, and we have the steps from our test. Okay, now let's change our test so it fails, so we can see a failed report. We'll add an in to John. And hit Control C. And now we'll fast forward a bit because I made a mistake and I forgot to save it before I recompiled it. So make sure to save your project, clicking the save icon in the top right or Control S. Now you can run npm run compile and npm run test. We can see our test is running. Gondola enter username John, password, button login, check control exists to welcome. It shouldn't see that control and we'll see a failed test. Now let's look at the report. npm run show dash report. We have the Allure report. You can see the one test has failed. We can see where it failed. Check control exists. We can see the last screenshot where we see the invalid username or password warning. Okay, now let's fix that. And we'll add a second test case to test for an invalid login. So we'll quit our report server, Control C, and then we'll type clear, hit enter. Now we'll add a new line. So to add a new line, you hover the mouse over check control exists and click the add new line button. Now in the new line, type test case. In the description, type invalid login. Access not granted. Add a new line. Type login. You can see login is auto-completed and it points to the login page object. So we're taking the method from there. Now for username, we'll type Joey, because Joey does not have a user account. Add a new line, check control exist. And then in the next column, we're gonna write // android.widget.textView with a capital T and V, open square bracket, at text equals quotation mark invalid username or password, period. And you copy that off of the screen. I'll keep it open so you can see it. Make sure to remember the period after password and the quotation marks around the text. Hit save. Now we can see this is all the TypeScript that we don't have to type. This is actually the page file. But let's look at the TypeScript in login validation. So here, there's a lot of places we could have messed up with a quotation mark. Here, these quotation marks are automatically escaped. Okay, now let's run the test. npm run compile. And npm run test. So, see our first test. It's gonna log in John. Click login. Now. Worked. Passed. Okay, now for the second test. Login Joey. Hit login. Check control exists. And did. Okay. Both tests were passed. Now let's look at the report. Okay, we've got the report open in Alert. See, we have 2 test cases now, but 1 suite. Each TypeScript file or spreadsheet is a test suite. Okay, we clicked on the test suite. Now let's look at Invalid Login. See all our steps. We can also see on the retries that this test failed previously when we edited it so that it would fail. So there's a bomb because it's not a stable test. Now we can look at the invalid login. We can see our steps, login username Joey, Gondola callback, check control exist, Android widget text view. Thank you for joining us today.